अभी अभी आएगा ये विस्की आ गया ना अभी अभी विस्की आ गया ना अभी आएगा हिंदी
Okay. Then.
Talk.
Okay, just talk. No, there's no cut.
No.
Hi, and welcome back to the Spill Sessions. Today we are going to be talking about 5 whiskies for beginners, and I have a very special guest today, the spirited monk, who's going to be helping me talking about these whiskies. I have put together 5 whiskies depending on regions, taste profiles, and also pricing. And I would love to hear a little more from you about what do you think of them.
Yeah, when it's whiskey, I always think highly about it. So, considering the fact that you have a lot of whiskeys that is available in the retail store or at the bar or even people's homes, why have you actually selected the 5 of these, which is right in front of us? Is there any specific reason in terms of why this particular single malt or that particular blended scotch, or is there any reason for it?
I wanted to actually give a little spectrum of the region, whiskey growing regions. So there is an American, there's an Irish, there is also dominated by Scotch whiskey, of course. So and that was the idea. And I've also actually put in a single malt for beginners to not make it so hoity-toity. But for beginners, I thought that it'll be nice to talk about it, because personally I have struggled to find. There was a time I was drinking vodka and gin, and when I realized that, oh great, like I would love to try whiskeys. As you're growing older, you want to try more and experiment more. I realized that where do I start? It's almost daunting in a way that you don't know whether you like a scotch or would you like a bourbon, or do you like them in cocktails, do you like them neat? So I think it's great to talk about how do you really enter the whole spectrum of whiskey and not be constantly be thinking about, okay, I'm being judged about how I'm drinking it or how I shouldn't be drinking it, etc. Yeah.
Okay, so coming to that particular point, I think the important factor is whenever somebody gets into starting off a whiskey or trying whiskey for the first time, because whiskey being a spirit which is dark and colorful means it has more character, more flavor. So if you were switching from a lighter spirit to a darker spirit, the important factor definitely is flavor profile, right?
So the first whiskey that we are going to be talking about is the Jameson. This is an Irish whiskey which comes from a really, really small village in Ireland called Cork, and it's been around for almost more than 100 years.
It's a nice light whiskey, does really well on its own, neat on the rocks, or even with a mix like a ginger ale. So fantastic, easy to start, easy whiskey, very easy whiskey,
and lovely on the palate. Yeah, so the next whiskey that I have chosen is a Monkey Shoulder. I thought this is again a really brilliant whiskey, super easy on mixability. I think that you have to give them kudos for their marketing campaign. They have actually positioned themselves, and talked about advocacy and bartenders.
Yeah, absolutely agree on that point. I think they moved away from the snuff factor of whiskey and made it as easy and simple.
Yes.
So a brilliant blended malt that is.
Yes, and I love the fact that they work very, very actively with bartenders ever since their launch. This was in 1995 or something, and I think they've done brilliantly. So now the next thing that I have here is a bourbon. You can't go wrong with it, right? And one word for you, mixability. And I thought cocktails is where it's at, and I think it's very, very easy to start or shift to a whiskey if you are planning to shift it through a bourbon.
Yeah, also an important thing to add when it comes to bourbon is a lot of people feel that it's supposed to be a sweeter whiskey. It isn't sweet, it has sweet notes, but it isn't a sweet whiskey. It has those nice sweet aromas when you nose it, but that kind of works really well when it comes to mixing. So you can either mix it again, fantastic whiskey because it has those strong oaky vanillin flavor, and that mixes really well, whether it's as simple as mixing it with Coke or ginger ale, and then you can go beyond that. So there's this one whiskey which can even do well with juices if you wish to drink it that way.
Okay, and I've also selected, and I don't know what you have to say for this, I have selected a Glenlivet 12. I thought it's a great option to have if you are looking at single malts and entering into that category. I thought this is a great way to enter a single malt category, and it's really, really again simple on the palate. It's easy, it's not anything that really stands out in a very strong way. Coming from Speyside, I think that it has a mellowness which actually adds to it.
Yeah, when we refer to Speyside single malt, I think we always say it has a little bit of everything. So it's a more all-rounded uh, single malt. So, for any consumer, you can always expect a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything that you probably would get in malt from, the islands, or malt from the lowlands, or malt from the highlands. I think Speyside malt is.
Yes, and I also feel that that's a personal opinion. I think we are moving away from the regions of Scotland and mostly talking about just the type of whiskies that you enjoy. You don't really need to go to the regions to understand whiskies. Right now, all the regions are actually producing really interesting variants and expressions, which is fabulous.
It's become more experimental. I think whiskey is now also getting into that experimental space. So
yes, catching up with gin.
Totally. I think, in today's date, I think whiskey is also moved away from the snootiness or the snobbish value, whereby you always said that, especially for Scotch, where the whole idea until a few years ago was that if you were drinking a Scotch, you were not supposed to be mixing it, you were not supposed to be putting a lot of ice in there. But I think now you just drink the whiskey the way you want to drink it, the way you enjoy drinking it. So therefore, it's a good choice. It's a nice choice in terms of the different regions or where the whiskey comes from.
Now, this is very interesting. The latest kid on the block, I'd like to say, Johnnie Walker Red Rye. This has recently been launched, and it's getting already good reviews. And what do you have to say? You recently got to try it, and you were
I always
big
felt
fan.
I always thought this is a great cocktail whiskey. Make a nice cool Manhattan with Rob Roy. You could also do an old-fashioned, or just drink it on the rocks.
And seeing a rye finish is something of not a regular thing, right? You don't.
No,
see
it isn't.
Rye
It isn't. But I think they've done a brilliant job. Being a blended Scotch whiskey, finishing it in a rye barrel. I think they've done a very good job.
Yeah, and I think they've entered at a perfect price point as well.
Totally. It really works well for everyone, consumer as well as bartenders.
Amazing. So I would like to think that you approve.
Totally, I approve. Absolutely approve.
Amazing. So if you guys have anything to add to that, and any of your whiskies that you've recently got to try, do put it in the comment section. So now that the spirited monk has approved of my list,
all my blessings.
Here are the whiskies and our selection: the Johnnie Walker Red Rye, the Monkey Shoulder, Jameson, Jim Beam, and the Glenlivet 12.
अभी आएगा ये whiskey आएगा ना अभी whiskey आएगा ना अभी आएगा हिंदी.
If you like this video, do not forget to like,
comment,
and subscribe to 3 Bar Stools, and of course follow us on Instagram.